Good morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, we're going to explore a terrible crime, what officials say is happening in our community: sex trafficking. Now, according to iHeartWorld, an organization dedicated to helping people who have been forced into prostitution, human trafficking is a business of buying and selling people for the purpose of physical or sexual exploitation. According to this organization, it's a crime that is reported in all 50 states. 70% of the victims are underage and were previously or are currently a part of the foster care system. The average price of a sex slave in 2015 was $90. iHeartWorld says the average age of entry into forced prostitution is between 12 and 14 years. If you think that it doesn't happen here on the Gulf Coast, well, think again. In this video from iHeartWorld, listen to the story of one young woman's sad spiral into forced prostitution. It happened in Mobile.
She started the call by saying, "I've been here for 30-something years and I've never gotten a phone call like this. I didn't know who else to call. Maybe you guys can help her. Her daughter is being trafficked through Mobile." So I called her. I reached out and I called the mom on my way to the event. And I'll never forget her telling me who she was and saying, "My daughter, she's 20 years old." And I remember that struck me because it was 1 year older than my daughter. And she said, "I've been following her. She's been being trafficked by this guy. I've been following her on a popular website that is strictly for the buying and selling of sex." She said, "But that's how I know that she's alive. And I know that she's been going through Mobile." And so we talked for a little while, and I remember her saying, "Thank you so much for talking to me. I can't wait to tell my daughter Natalie that there are people and places like you guys out there to help." She said, "I didn't know. I didn't know there was people out there who were supposed to help us." So that really led into not only working with her, but a friendship. You know, just think of the horror of seeing pictures of your daughter intentionally undressed and in ways so that men are buying her. But she would really start to panic when she couldn't find her. She'd say, "I can't find her. That's the only way she would know that she's alive." And it was just not a question to me of whether or not I was going to talk to her. But I remember her telling me, "My family doesn't understand anymore because she's over the age of 18, everybody thinks, well, if she wants to, she'll come home." Several months after that, probably about 3 months later, I got a phone call from her mom, and Natalie had been arrested. She was in jail in Houston, and I thought, well, this is a perfect time for me to go and talk with her and meet her. And when she came into the visitor's room, I'll never forget how struck I was by her innocence. I could just see her as a little girl. And she picked up the phone and she said hi to me, and there was just a sweetness about her that the world had not stolen from her. I don't know how to explain it. And I remember getting on the phone with her one night, and I said, "You only have a little bit of time left." And she said, "Uh-huh." And I said, "If you don't leave fast, you're gonna run, aren't you?" And she said, "Yes." And so she went, and her mom put her on the plane. She didn't make it. She got off the plane. She didn't make it out of Texas, actually. By the time her mom got home, she had already been posted back on a website and was with her trafficker. September 23rd, I got a phone call from her. It was exactly 1 year, almost exactly 1 year to the day. And I remember because it was my wedding anniversary. Her mom called me about 1:30 a.m. and I answered, and she said, "They just found Natalie's body." So at Natalie's funeral, we left from the funeral home and went to the cemetery. And I personally have never had anyone very close to me pass away. And it hit me like it had never hit me before. And I said, every time this happens, this is someone's daughter. Every single time. Every girl this happens to, it's someone's daughter. And all the stories don't end that way, but every time a girl is sold, we're selling someone's daughter. And if her story can help change one life, then I know that she would be so proud.
And of course, our thanks to iHeartWorld for that video and sharing Natalie's story. Well, there is hope in spite of the darkness and the sadness. And joining us this morning is Crystal Yarborough. You may recognize her there. She's also the Alabama director and the Rose Center director for iHeartWorld in Mobile. And this morning we'll also talk with Sarah Bumgarner of Lifelines Counseling. Lifeline's mission statement is to help individuals and families live more productive lives through counseling and education. The Rose Center, by the way, was awarded the FBI Director's Community Leadership Award in 2018 and the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Health and Human Services Award in Mobile. A chat with Crystal when we come back. And welcome back to Perspectives. As we mentioned this morning, Crystal Yarborough, the Alabama director and the Rose Center director for iHeartWorld in Mobile, joins us now this morning on Perspectives, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Very
touching and moving and sad story you shared there of one of the young women that you've interacted with over the years of being involved. In hearing information locally, it said that it's occurring on a daily basis, that we have child victims out there and they need a voice.
Right.
How did you get involved in this?
That's really a great question, and kind of the story about Natalie's story is she happened to be the first girl I ever worked with. And so that was in 2015, and that was really kind of my initiation into it. And it's amazing how each girl you work with, for me, makes me want to do it even more. And I just knew that I had a heart for young girls, for women, but I just wasn't sure exactly where that was. And my husband went on a mission trip. He came back, and excuse me, one of our pastors had said, "You guys have to introduce you to this couple. They work with human trafficking here locally." I didn't know that was possible, right? I thought you had to go overseas to do it.
Right.
And so then he brought Brian and Susan Russo in, and my husband and I sat down with them, and they started talking about trafficking in Mobile and Baldwin counties, and it just broke our hearts. And we said, "We want to do something for you." And so it just started out with volunteering in 2015, and then in 2017 I came on staff. So.
And of course, a lot of people are grateful that you all are doing this on a daily basis. When you look at our area, what seems to be the catalyst for this happening here in our area?
That's really a great question, and I think when we go from the mindset of it's something that happens in other countries, right? We kind of picture the movie Taken,
right.
And don't let your little girls, walk their dog at night, or because they might be kidnapped. But what we really look at for domestic sex trafficking are five areas of vulnerability, and so we look at poverty, homelessness, substance abuse, sexual abuse, and foster care. That, in addition to the fact that we have two major interstates, I-10 and I-65, that intersect here in Mobile. We also have the tourism industry. We live in a place where people vacation. So all of that just really sets fertile soil for trafficking. And that's, once people start to, at least for me, once people start to say, okay, well, we do have all of these elements, well, then that means that we most likely do have trafficking here. It takes it from something that happens over there to right
in your backyard.
Exactly.
And when you mention some of those places and things that we have here, those are places that we all frequent. I mean, we stop at the gas stations along Interstate 10, that all the truck stops that go through our area. Most people may stop and get a better gas price at these places. Right. You think about the tourism. We have some major events here that attract people from around the nation. And we've got, I guess, the drawing card, if you want to use that terminology. When did, I guess, the people here who would have to deal with this, like your organization, other organizations, law enforcement, when did they realize that, yeah, we do have something going on here? When did all that sort of come together, the awareness of it?
So probably, I know it's been, at least for our area, since I've been with the organization, it's been amazing how, because even though trafficking is not new to America,
right.
as a nation, it's a new thing that we're learning how to be aware of. Again, it's kind of changing our perspective. You know, your show is called Perspectives. Well, what's my perspective on human trafficking? Because if this is how I see it, then that kind of defines what I see. But if I have a different perspective, then my eyes are all of a sudden open to the need for it. So I think as more and more people started to become aware of, hey, it is an American problem. It's a Southern problem. And so then for me personally, it's been building relationships just in the community. And all of a sudden, you know, first responders and people started saying, well, we're seeing these things, but we don't know what it is. Not only do we not know what it is, but once we identify it, what do we do? Right? What do we do with these girls? And so I think everybody just kind of is, once we recognize, hey, this is a problem, okay, well, how can I better educate myself to be able to do something about it? And I will say that's one thing that I have found in Mobile that has just really been amazing, is the number of people in the community, the first responders, the other organizations, you know, other service providers who are like, what can we do? How can we help this? And you know, we don't always get that. But so just awareness, like being able to go into in-service on Fridays and train the Mobile Police Department, like that's a huge deal. You know, it's not a training they've had before.
And so you know what they're looking for.
Right. And so the influx of referrals that we've gotten just from being able to train law enforcement has been pretty incredible.
Well, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk more, as well as hear from one of the agencies that works along with you in this challenge here in our area, along with law enforcement as well. As we mentioned that, we're talking about a representative from Lifeline's counseling service. She'll be joining us here on Perspectives. Now, as we go to break, here's Sergeant Joe Cotner of the Mobile Police Department. He's over the child abuse detail of the Special Victims Unit. He says that Mobile's location, as mentioned by Crystal at the junction of two major national interstate highways, is one reason that MPD has human trafficking cases to work.
Any corridor is, in any interstate thoroughfare, is going to help anybody who is intent on committing a crime. You know, it's just like what we see with the drug trade. The interstate systems allow them to move the drugs and move them across the country. It's the same with human trafficking. They are able to move individuals around using these corridors to different states, different cities, and they use those corridors.
And welcome back to Perspectives. We're talking this morning about human sex trafficking in our area. Now, we were talking to Crystal Yarborough. She's still here with us this morning. And joining us now, Sarah Bumgardner of Lifeline's Counseling, also with us here as we're talking about this issue in our area. Thanks for joining us in the dialogue and the conversation as well. Now, your organization is sort of, I guess you could say, the hub of making things happen in the area, reaching out and being available for not only the victim, but the families, as you shared in the testimonial where you had the opportunity of working with Natalie's mom. Tell us first how the Rose Center operates, and then we'll have Sarah share with us about Lifelines and how they're one of your supporting organizations.
That's a great question. So I think Lifelines really comes in, so it's twofold. Because this is a population that does not self-identify, right? So we kind of think, okay, we're gonna, like, this girl's gonna say, I need your help, right? But a lot of times, well, they don't usually, because they don't trust and they're afraid, and oftentimes what we don't know is so much scarier than what we do know, even if we do know something bad. So, you know, it starts with a referral for us, and we build trust with them and just start to fill their basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, and the idea, while we provide case management and we want to empower them to live a life outside of the life, but a lot of them lack in job skills. They obviously need trauma-informed counseling, just your everyday things that really, I think that the normal people, not to say normal, but most of us take for granted.
Right, a lot of challenges, as you were mentioning.
Right, or maybe a lack of education, or they've never applied for a job before. They don't have an ID. So we kind of help. So the idea is to, you know, offer these holistic wraparound services.
So we have to remember now, some of these girls are 14 when they got into this.
Right. And if I could quickly share a story, and we recently got a call about a girl, she was 16, we actually got the call from another organization. She's being trafficked here locally, and she's from North Alabama, and she was being sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend, and she told her mom, and her mom didn't believe her, so she actually ran away from home in North Alabama to come here to get away from it. And so no one's really looking for this young girl. And so we think, well, how does she fall in, how do these young girls, being 16, how do they fall in the cracks, and what can we do to serve them? And so, like, we do some things, and we, that's kind of our area, but we don't do everything, right? So we need organizations like Lifelines to come in and do what they do so well.
So how do you all join into this mission, Sarah?
Well, I think with the Rape Crisis Center, which is one of the programs that we run at Lifelines Counseling Services, we're able to provide some of the services, like she said, that they're looking for. So we have a 24/7 call line that sexual assault victims can call and get help at the local USA Children's and Women's Hospital. We have specialized trained nurses there that can do the forensic exams, and if they want to report to law enforcement, they can, and the police officer can come there. Or, even when they call, the victim advocate is trained to go, they show up at the hospital, and if they want them to hold their hand, just be there, talk to them, kind of talk to them about some of the things they might be experiencing, they're trained to do that. So just to be there, to be a listening ear, to be a comforting help. And we kind of pride ourselves on that because it is a big need in our area, and so we try to help as much as we can when the victim survivor comes in, and also whenever they come to Crystal, we offer the same services, and then also afterwards, a lot of times people see, like she said, you see the survivor and you think, oh, well, maybe if they get a little bit of this or that, they're going to be fine. But some of it's so deep and so traumatic that they might look fine on the outside, but inside they're having a lot of issues. So we offer counseling. We offer counseling to them, their secondary survivors, their family members, if they're still in contact with them. And we also work with the police department to train them on when they do encounter these, how do they talk to the survivor. So just like Crystal's working them on things to spot, well, then we kind of have to be careful, like, you don't want to kind of victim blame them, or you don't want to make them feel like they are doing something wrong.
Story.
Yeah,
right.
You don't know the full story. Are they there against their will, or are they, you know what I mean? So
how difficult is it to transition them into where you're hoping that they are going to make that break? Because according to law enforcement, they have really been groomed, and the mental thing has been so strong by those who have them in that situation.
That's really what I think is the most difficult thing to get the general public to understand is just because we don't see their physical chains, like it's a systematic breaking down of their personhood, of their identity. Like girls in the life, they're actually renamed. For example, I'll just use Natalie as she had a different name, and she only knew the first time I talked to her that I had talked to her mother because I knew her name was Natalie. No one else called her Natalie. She had street names. So it's a systematic, really stripping away of personhood and identity. And so let's
hold it on that point there. When we come back, we'll explore that further, because that's one of the things that law enforcement talks about, and one of the further challenges of this whole process. Now, before we go to break, we hear again from Sergeant Joe Cotner of the Mobile Police Department. As we told you, he's over the child abuse detail of the Special Victims Unit. Now, you may have already thought it, and Sergeant Cotner now confirms it. Social media and the internet both are being used to commit human trafficking crimes. Perspectives continues after this.
It definitely aids in the crime. It is, we just recently saw, I can't remember if it was about 6 months ago or a year ago, where Craigslist was shut down by the federal government because they were using it to put the advertisements out for these crimes, and they were able to set up the meetings and exploit these women and children and men using Craigslist. And so we do see that the internet and social media is being utilized to further this crime.
And welcome back to Perspectives. We're talking again with Crystal Yarborough and Sarah Bumgarner as we try to let people know that it is happening here, but there is hope and there's help through your organization as well, working with other agencies. Tell us, Crystal, what do you want the public to do and to understand how they play a part in ending this here?
So what I would like to tell people is everybody has something in our hands, right? We don't have to have a special skill or a lot of money to donate or all these things. You know, we all do something. For example, one of our, where I practice yoga, they have just trained their, they've just asked us to come in and kind of talk to their instructors about what to see. And then, you know, but everybody has something that they use, something in their hands. And how can I use what I have in my hands, what I do every day to kind of help further this issue.
Right. And Sarah, you mentioned knowing how to talk and address someone who we may perceive they might be in that indentured situation. What do you say to someone that you think that they might be and you want to help them in some kind of way?
Well, I think that a lot of people have this misconception that if you talk about it or, you know, say something about it, you might be like attacking them or making them feel a certain way. But don't be afraid to ask and talk about it. And, you know, people can come to us for support. We have a 24/7 crisis line that anyone can call. And even if they were a survivor from last night or 20 years ago, we offer counseling services to family members of victims. You know, if like Crystal's mom, Natalie's mom had called and was going, we offer counseling, free counseling for people that are, you know, family members of victims and actual victims themselves. So.
And we talked about some of the places like the gas stations on the interstates, motels. People may see something that looks strange and unusual. Right. So I guess if you see something, that old saying about say something, report it?
Absolutely. If you see something and it doesn't feel right, say something, because the worst that can happen is you could be wrong. But if it is something, it could be a young girl's life. Well, it is a young girl's life.
And I love what was said in the piece, that's somebody's daughter.
Right. Right.
It really hits home.
Yeah.
It does. Everyone
the three of us have daughters.
That's right. Yeah. And I think once you can humanize these girls, you can remember that they're a human being. They were once a little girl with a dream. Then all of a sudden, for at least for me, for most people, you can't ever disconnect from that again.
We thank both of you for coming and sharing today, and hopefully this information will be helpful to help others be a part of the mission to end this in not only our area, but our state, our nation. Right. And as you said earlier, internationally.
That would be awesome.
We're going to show some information here on the growing problem of human sex trafficking. Now, you can contact the iHeart World organization at the website you see there on the screen. You'll also have a number there to go directly to Crystal locally. The organization sponsors workshops as well as provides speakers that can come to your community or organization. Now, you can also contact the Lifeline's counseling services at the number you see there on the screen. Well, please join us again next time at 7:30 for Perspectives as we discuss important issues and seek solutions. Now, if you have any ideas of topics you'd like for us to address, just drop that to us at perspectives@fox10tv.com. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great week.